You can think about the end of banking, for example, the decentralization that is going to happen because of the blockchain revolution, or even in other areas like transformation in our post-plastic society, or the current situation we are already in, I mean, the post-pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic. There are some key principles related to the future what we try to always follow. One of them is that the future is not trivial. We need to study, to do research, to investigate, to gain insight about the future. Another principle is that the future has priority right now. We need to link that understanding about the long term to the appropriate action in the present. And finally, the future should be open to critique. I mean, most of futures scholars do not believe that there is only one future, but they use the plural now. I mean, futures, and the diversity and plurality are essential. After this very brief review, let me present a few driving forces of change. I mean by those driving forces, the factors that are causing change or affecting or shaping the future at a macro level or at a very large extent. And if you go to several think tanks or institutions that are focused on the long-term horizon, you see most of them try to identify and review such drivers of change, and they might differ with each other, but the whole idea is that there are some factors that are at a macro level shaping our world, shaping our businesses, shaping our organization of society. Everything is going to be changed because of them, because of the force that is in them, and they are going to make systematic disruptions or systematic transformation in the society. Well, here you see some of those driving forces that I believe that are going to be important during some decades ahead. I mean, until 2030 or 2040. Well, in addition to what is going to be the long-term consequences or implications of this coronavirus pandemic, you can see that we should anticipate a silver tsunami. I mean by that, the aging societies, the average age of people throughout different societies. Another one is convergent technologies. I mean, nano, bio, information, and cognitive science. Another important force is artificial intelligence regulation, or sometimes they call it explainable artificial intelligence, because we need to demand from engineers and business owners to allow us to better understand what is or what are the biases already put in the algorithms that are going to make critical decisions in the future for the human societies. And after that, we have quantum computing. And some people would say that the difference between quantum computing and the current technology is that somehow the difference between carriage technology and the spaceship technology. You know, this is going to be a revolutionary progress, and it could be linked with it so many challenges and so many opportunities as well. Another driving forces in the future is going to be geoengineering, and you know that these driving forces have been classified according to these steep categories. I mean, beginning with social, then going to technological, then environmental, economical, and finally, eventually political. After geoengineering, you anticipate commercialization of the space. And in the economic sector, you see United States versus China tension, which is already at play right now because of this coronavirus pandemic. But it was there before, and it's going to be reinforced later. And this Belt and Road Initiative is going to be a very important driving force. And you know, sometimes people would call this scenario or this dynamics as pandemic. as opposed to pandemic. Pandemic is about the virus, and pandemic is about the rise of China and its impact on the global space about what is going to happen later. And we have scrambled for the North Pole because of the global warming. That is going to be a hot spot for resource extraction, and different countries are going to have tension over there. And of course, scramble 2.0 for Africa. There was a scramble 1.0 for Africa during the 19th century. I mean, in 1884 and 1885 Berlin Conference. It shaped colonialism in Africa, but it's going to be another scramble for Africa. And finally, at the political level, you're going to have the potential rise of authoritarianism. And it could have either a religious or a secular characteristics. But the authoritarianism is going to be challenging our current democracies, even though not exactly functional. But we can anticipate that this pandemic and other forces that were already in play before the pandemic is going to fuel that such kind of authoritarianism. These are the driving forces that are going to be important in the next few decades. And I'm not going to focus so much on these slides here because they need some much more time to go deeper into them. But just to give you a broad view, I mean, we can use our systematic approach by doing system dynamics mapping to find what are the reinforcing and the balancing loops that are at play, for example, to shape the dynamic related to this pandemic, to this tension between the United States and China. We can, for example, put all these feedback loops together to see what could be the relationship between them. Or in the part of technology, we can use another very useful tool in futures studies, which is called the future wheel. And we put the very core issue right at the center. It is called, for example, here, the fourth industrial revolution. And we put all the consequences, I mean, direct and indirect consequences of all the variables, all the factors that are related to the fourth industrial revolution in a general shape like this, and you can make sense of the big picture in a single visualized picture like this. And this gives you a static systemic outlook, and the system dynamics gives you a dynamic way to approach these different factors that are going to shape your issue or core issue.
Sorry, Victor. Would it be possible just to zoom in a little on that very complex future wheel, just momentarily?
Let me.
That's possible.
Is it better for you to just see?
Just to give everyone a flavor of the complexity.
Yeah, here, for example, I have developed this future wheel for the fourth industrial revolution. And you see in the first layer of direct impact, you see that there is going to be some significant unemployment because of the use of smart operations, and some significant impacts on the productivity of the manufacturing sector and the cost of productions. Sometimes people in Silicon Valley, I mean futures in Silicon Valley, have put this term abundance scenario that William mentioned today, are talking about this production cost cliff, by which they mean that the cost of many products and services are approaching zero, and because of this smart operation revolution or the fourth industrial revolution. And there are other impacts in the lower part of this future where you see that, for example, there could be less accidents due to human error. For example, if there are driverless cars in the transportation system, or we can improve the environment. But on the other hand, we can, of course, anticipate some cyber vulnerability, and by that I mean that there will be more incidents related to ransomware. I mean cyber attacks, and we have already seen about this shift to the digital platforms after this lockdown period in this global or pandemic or coronavirus pandemic, because so many hackers are already trying to use this cyber vulnerability to make a fortune for themselves. And let me just for a moment give you the final. If you allow me to go on, or just I would stop here. If you like, I can just add a few points about the final section.
No,
of the.
Please feel free to go to your summary or to finish up.
Okay. Let me just share right now another screen with you. Well, I was talking about the final part of this analysis of the driving forces. You have heard that people are talking about the post-pandemic world as the death of globalization, and they're trying to make the contrast between globalization versus nationalization or nationalism. But we have another alternative, and that alternative, you can find more about it in my website, Alternative Planetary Futures, is that we can make the contrast between globalization and planetization, and they are actually a kind of opposite twins or binary opposites, if you like to call them such. And for that, I have used a specific integral framework for futures studies, which is called Zorban. It is called Zorban because it is based on a methodology which is founded upon the identification or identifying opposite twins and finding local heroes or heroines and anti-heroes or anti-heroines in order to make transformation narratives. Let me just give you a brief review of these opposite twins that are related to this globalization versus planetization. As you can see here, we have we can identify many opposite twins, and after that we can find transformation narratives. And this narrative that is much discussed in detail here is based on 7 zeros, and those zeros are zero knowledge in the ocean of all disciplines, which is related to that transdisciplinary rise in education. I mean multidisciplinary, by understanding that our specific field of study, it compared with all the human knowledge or ocean of human knowledge, is almost nothing, zero. And another one is the zero center for identity. The other one, the number 3, is zero carbon for energy, the post-fossil fuel future. And another one is zero killing in society. It is about a vision of the non-killing society or non-killing world. And after that, you see zero conscious being excluded. And by that, we mean a united planets. And for that, perhaps we need to think about the wordplay. I mean, the United Shift of Asia, which could be the USA, versus the United States of America, which is also, again, USA. This is a playing with forth to see what could be the final scenario related to this pandemic, as I talked about it today. And finally, the other remaining elements for this planetization vision are zero hard labor for humanity because of the rise of artificial intelligence and explainable artificial intelligence, of course. And the final step is about the zero existence in higher creativity and complexity. And for the future of the world and the future of the education and everything in the society, we need to put much more emphasis on encouraging more creativity and encouraging more thinking in terms of complexity of system, not a simplified attitude toward what is happening right now around us or in the world. And the complexity approach is also very important to realize that very long-term vision. Well, I tried today just to give you a very brief and short introduction to these futures studies, which is different from forecasting and prediction. Gave a review of 10 driving forces that are at work at the planetary scale, and finally tried to challenge this binary opposite between globalization versus nationalism, and offered another binary opposite, which is globalization versus planetization. Thank you very much for your patience, and I stop here. If you like to ask question or anything else, I'm going to.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, Victor, for that whistle-stop presentation, very succinct. Please use the raise the hand function if you'd like to ask or raise any questions. So I'm just quickly scanning to see.
Someone has raised his hand.
Yeah.
iPhone Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a quick question about, if you could just go over one more time, the pandemic and the China version, like the the two differences between the pandemic and the pandemic, or you were talking about, there's the China word or something.
Yeah, you know, a very key driving forces with respect to the future of the world is, of course, the final outcome of the current tension between the United States of America and China is a rising global power. And people are talking about trade war between the Trump administration and China. People are talking about the racism against Asian-looking people, which has been intensified or reinforced after this current pandemic. But we have tried to make two puns. I mean, make two wordplays. One of them is pandemic, which is about that the rise of China and a new world that has the leader in China. I mean, you have almost always heard about this China activity in the African continent, for example. They are making huge investments. They are coming in a large group of experts and investors and capital and immigrants and everything. And the pandemic is going to happen when United States continues to go into the direction of more protectionism, more closed borders, and less concern about the world leadership. And China is going to use that power vacuum and vacuum of leadership to bring its own structure for the world order. Another play with the word that I also presented today, which is in my book, Alternative Planetary Futures have been discussed, is a united shift of Asia. And the united shift of Asia, if you make the abbreviation, you also reach to USA. And by that wordplay, I'm suggesting that perhaps in the long term, the superpower of the world is the united shift of Asia, because again, China is going to have been able to put its flag everywhere. I mean, not only in Africa, but also in Europe or in other countries. And this is going to be a very important development, and many global studies, many planetary studies often begin with that question at the key uncertainty.
All right, that makes sense. And I have one more question for a friend of mine who's in this company, William Coburn. I don't know if he's can see me. Will, I just wanted to know if you have what your kind of opinion is on kind of that whole conversation that just kind of went on between the two of us, and then the presentation. If you have any thoughts about what the future is going to be like for China and the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I think Victor points at it pretty pointedly. I think what the intention for us is how we're seeing ourselves evolve in this sense. So we put a lot of fear and are afraid that China is going to be kind of, well, actually, so there's two sides of the coin, I think. I think some people are aware that China is becoming this powerhouse, and they're leading with technological innovation and AI, and really kind of breaking down the boundaries so that they can actually help with more security and so on. So in the sense that we're not really able to see that we can adopt these technologies for us, for our security, and really to raise awareness and to elevate our consciousness. And there's also the distinction that we think that we should be separate. So we think that maybe China's doing their own thing so that they don't know what they're doing, that we should be doing something else completely different. And so I think that that's the separation I was talking about in the opening, that we build between ourselves and different cultures and systems that are embedded in the way we think about and perceive ourselves. So if we can kind of dissolve those boundaries again and see that there is unification and that there is unity in between these two countries, then we can actually come together and have open dialogues between the US, China, Europe, Africa, Australia, and all these other continents, so that we can come together and actually find ways that we can solve problems together, instead of us creating more problems and then creating competition between countries and continents, because that competition is only going to lead to more friction and tension.
Right, but do you think that the coronavirus created more separation between China and the United States? And if so, do you even think that a leader like Trump would be able to kind of like bring any sort of unity? You know, because it's not up to just some of the American people, right? It's up to like the leadership. So.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point, because we're putting the power in the hands of a single person. And so I was kind of talking about how even a person like Trump, who's very egoic, and he pulls up these defense barriers within him, that if he feels threatened for the safety of the country and the pride of the American people, then he's going to do something to push and resist against these other countries. So I think this is where we're coming to, us consciously, collectively making decisions together, where we can see what works for each of us, because each of us are so different in our needs and wants and desires and things that excite us. And so it will be in time again, and it's nothing that we can force, because we can't force people to change, and we can't really impose new belief systems into people. But it's planting seeds into people's subconscious, so that they can be open to new ideas, and then eventually see a new possibility down the future. So it's all about starting.
My last question for you, and then I'll wrap up, is how you plant seeds into the subconscious, I guess. Like, how would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think first you have to, for myself at least, I try to be open and not project onto other people. So it's like an invite to a new idea. So people will think in such a narrow point of view about their idea, and they say, this is right, and anyone else who disagrees is going to feel like an enemy to them. And so it's about showing again that we want to turn into more empathetic beings, that we actually care about each other rather than just the immediate gratification that people are looking for in this digital age of, whether that's, it's these dopamine rushes that we're looking for, whether it's watching videos or in dialogues and conversations. And so I think if we realize again that we can't escape ourselves, we can't escape the present moment. So if we can find more stillness and awareness within ourselves, then we can see that we're all alike. And so I think when we have that openness, then that's where people are like, yeah, maybe we're not so different. And maybe we are really alike, and we're all looking for happiness and joy and unity in this world. And people who maybe disagree with that at first, because they're putting up those barriers. So at first, it's about just opening up within ourselves first when we have that inner awareness. And then other people will be able to see little things like, oh, maybe he is saying something kind of true there. Maybe he's not. And then it's just kind of a work in progress, that it's an unfolding. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sorry, that's a great description. I brought a couple of my other buddies in here, Nathan, Philip, and Jacob, all of who are not in this company organization. So I'm gonna see if they want to ask a question, and if not, I think we'll wrap up then for our team that I brought in.
Sure, I've got a question, and anyone can answer this one if they'd like. If there are any immediate policy suggestions for protecting the world, a single country, anything from the coronavirus or any pandemic possibly in the future, what ideas would you guys have of something that might be of immediate support right now?
Victor or William?
This pandemic, this coronavirus pandemic, put a lot of pressure on the health system. Healthcare system are crippling under this pressure, and there will be going lots of early retirements, because nurses and physicians who have been forced to face patients are going to reconsider their career in healthcare system. But the good wake-up call for the humanity was that we have invested in right places. We have not enough investment in doing pure basic biological research, or pure basic biological or genetics or chromatoids research are not receiving enough funds from governments. And as a very long-term solution, I would say that there should be much more investment by the governments, and of course much more demand from the students to study or do projects related to epidemiology. And for a quick solution, I would say that perhaps we need immune passports, and several other countries also have discussed this solution as a very effective solution for the revival of the airline industry. People have to come back to the normal level of movement across the borders, but for that we need a good digital platform to track and monitor the health of individuals when they are moving across borders. And you need to have both quick solutions and very long-term solutions. But the more important solution could be related to what William mentioned today. It's about consciousness. It's about management of our fears, of the fear of death, or of the fear of contagion, or the fear of aliens who are coming among us, and we have seen that such a big fear made a huge impact today in the Trump administration by suspending all immigration into the United States, because it's going to protect both the health care system and of course the job market, because the current crisis is going to put a lot of fear on the collective consciousness of people. And we can think about different approaches and different frameworks, but there are obvious solutions, but there are also non-very obvious solutions. And for that non-obvious solutions, we need to do a lot of discussions and a lot of dialogue among all countries of the world. And when I discussed today globalization versus planetization, you know, globalization is going to stop right after the moment there is no cross-border travel or cross-border flow of capital or migration. But planetization doesn't stop in this current situation, because it's about transcending of our consciousness, trying to learn about the alien, trying to learn about the other cultures, trying to effectively manage our fears of the other, fear of the uncertainty, or this kind of things. And consciousness, in addition to technology, can bring a much better perspective to the future of the world and possible solutions.
All right. Thanks, Victor. If anyone else also had any ideas that they want to share, feel free. I know Michael mentioned Philip and Nathan as well, if they have anything to say. I think Philip may have left, but Nathan's still around. So if you have any question as well, feel free to go for it.
I had a question about what institutions we can create to elevate our consciousness. It's one thing to like talk about it in a Zoom meeting, but how can we spread that to a larger group of people?
Yeah, I can share. So there's one project being looked at in TAFFD right now. So it would be an kind of if you're familiar with Gaia, you know, they have like the web series of different episodes. So basically it's like a big portal for watching movies, TV series. And I think they also have like mentors where you can bring people together and learn about like the history of consciousness. So like looking at Atlantis, looking at like Egyptian times and like past civilizations, and how that is kind of shaping the framework for what we're looking into the future now. And so it's being immersed in the storytelling, and then as well immersing ourselves into the storytelling. So using these immersive technologies like VR. So it's like this choose your own adventure type, where you could explore yourself, your psyche, and how you're related to other people. And then bringing on people that can be aware of what your state of consciousness is at this point in time. So, and a lot of that is just bringing awareness back to the body. So it's like breath work, meditation, and yoga, and not from the side of how yoga is to help our physical health, but actually to help mind, body, and spirit. And so that's what the Western philosophy of yoga is. And so it's trying to bring more unity back. So creating a platform where people can be open and have discussions and kind of have this teacher-student relationship that's more unified.
Okay, I'd like to take just one last question from Nicole. I know she was frantically waving her hand there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've been listening, like Gaia, to me, that is really extreme, slow motion. We are far beyond this. I've been studying it for 20 years now, and it's time to come out. Like, we can override everything that is ever turned like the Matrix. We can override that with a grid. Like the nonsense about fear, anger, all these emotions can be eliminated like quite quickly through the glandular structure. So I'm writing many, many miles above everything that was the matrix, and many call it even, like most know about Greg Braden and everything, that is slow, slow motion. So allowing the advanced sciences in meditation, like I don't agree at all, like yoga needs to be fitness with rock and roll, the circulation. As I'm talking right now, what I feel is like waves of light, like 10 miles around my head. I don't know if you can feel that. So I've been loading it for more than 10 years and studying it. So my energy goes wild. You know, I must fit as an 18-year-old while I'm 60. So, and that comes from all the energies opening up and working with the ecology, biology of Earth and moving that up. If you could get that education in any university and schools, fusing every faculty that we have in the university, that would make up massive intelligence. So my perspective here is, in first place, eliminating anything that is deep subconsciousness levels, everything that is subconscious, and bringing that all the way up to the surface. And then we can re-establish the brain applications, because many glands that we actually have a million miles or lifetimes ago have been killed when birthing, also in ego consciousness, what I term soul consciousness. So moving up into your consciousness, up into your spiritual vibration, then you open up the applications in your brain, like on your iPhone. And there's many applications we can put back in. So people can experience when these portals come open, like a complete split shift in consciousness in a few days' time. Let's say a week would be perfect to be able to set up, because the body needs to follow suit. So coming back to yoga, you need that a very quick fitness, like running is good, and doing exercises with it, and lifting weights so your circulation opens up, because most of the time the throat is completely blocked with old stuff and repetitive motion actually through the glands. When that opens up, you can literally see through your brains. So people used to say, you're a medium or anything. Everybody is a medium. We can channel information from the old solar system that has been broken. We can lift and open up the new solar system, your own sun stream, move to the galaxies and bring that down to Earth, which is happening now. Moving that beyond the matrix, called crystalline grids or light fields or whatever you want to call it, you can move up the sixth dimension where everything becomes not mystical but crystal clear. And that is actually a plane of existence which I live every day, where you can lift your breathing system. So the lungs, the respiratory system, everything opens up many miles in your energy fields, and you can work and learn to work with all these energy fields that are pure consciousness as well. You can load the higher levels of intelligence, wisdom in the domains, whatever you're interested in. So, and that brings back the passion. I miss out, I don't see any passion. And that needs to come back to people, you know, passion every day. And so they move into their joy factor, which is not easy. Because in order to attain that, we need to eliminate every single emotion and move into the higher vibration of sensibility, sensitivity, the higher senses beyond the sixth sense. And so that working on that every day, emerging that with every faculty in every school, whatever it is, as the first thing in the morning and at night, that would be the greatest project ever. Because if you move these fields, let's say in one establishment or an hospital or a police station or whatever, any business, for example, there is no density or disease that can move into it. How can you know? By experience only, because what you haven't experienced, that is only blabber, right? That is not easy to understand. Once you get into it and you completely change all the wavelengths, it's not only about rewiring, it's actually about deleting and adding, deleting and adding. So we have a calculation system in the back of the brain that recalculates continuously your body's health and whatever your topic is, at a particular moment in time, it recalculates. And when you have these communication systems open like your Wi-Fi station up into the universe, then life becomes magic. And that is an option. That is actually what is happening. The universe is putting everything back to order. So we need to reorganize our organism or biology to match that. If we don't match that, we get increased by the governments, we get increased by everything that is not in the right order, which is almost everything.
I think, well, sorry to bring you to a little bit of close there, Nicole. You'll love the Denetriades, who joined us briefly. She'll be joining us a bit later. She'll be talking about the biophysics aspects. I'm conscious that we've sort of overrun a little bit on the previous session, and that was primarily because Miri Rodriguez was having problems. Zoom had kicked her out. I'm glad to say that she's back with us. Before we move on, I'd just like to give a round of applause for Victor for his very succinct, trying to squeeze so much information into a 15-minute slot. And I'm sure that we will have more discussions on that, on the future aspects over the next few days and months. Miri Rodriguez, welcome. You're a new author this year. I was pleased to see videos of you opening the books and sharing those on social media. She's an author of brand and storytelling, but her day job is she's global head of internship at Microsoft. And she's here to talk to us today about not just becoming a storyteller, or why be a storyteller when you can actually become a story lord or lady for that matter. So over to you.
Yes, thank you, Edward. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'm sorry I didn't get to jump in and be part of the entire conversation that's been going on, but from the little bit that I've been able to hear, it's really exciting to know that we're having conversations around energy, passion. We're having conversations around connectedness and humanity, and I love the theme that we're driving here, because storytelling actually comes right into that piece. So my presentation will also be very succinct. We all get, I know, and I'm conscious that we are running a little bit late. So I will be as succinct as possible. And I will also just kind of run you through my learnings of storytelling as a storyteller at Microsoft. Can you see my screen? Are you able to see my screen? Not
no.
Yet. All right, 1 second.
Not currently, no.
All right, let me see. Possibly now, yes?
Yes, there we are.
Excellent. All right. So I just want to give a little bit of context of storytelling for those of you who are not sure of what it is and how we're using it to drive business forward. At Microsoft, we began this work around 6 years ago when Satya came in as CEO, and he really took into a different approach to the corporation to think about how we were connecting with our stakeholders internally and externally, and what we were doing that needed a little bit more improvement in the midst of a new transformation, a digital transformation, but also a cultural transformation, because we've learned that both go hand in hand. You can't just modernize institutions with new technologies. You also have to bring in a new wave of culture, and what does that mean for your organization in general, for the industry as well, and for the world. So for Microsoft, it was important to bring in storytellers to do this work. Storytellers are people that are in the communications field, in the field of marketing as well, visual marketing, digital marketing, visual communications, digital communications. I came in from a visual and digital communications piece, and I came into the engineering work to actually take those stories that are very technical and make them connected and human. And so for me, these are just the 5 steps of what I learned on how to do that, and how you can do the same to becoming a story lord. Because storytelling, I've learned, it's a verb. It is not a one-time approach. You don't just craft a story and land it. Whatever story that will be for your organization, for your institution, for your personal brand, however you want to use it, it really is something that continues to evolve. And a story lord is someone who just basically owns that story in a way that designs it over and over. It's not afraid to test it. And so I took a design thinking approach to my storytelling, and this is where I began. I was able to map the 5 steps of design thinking to storytelling. So I'll walk real quick through these, each step to showcase how what this means, but just really cool to bring out, important to really think about the fact that this process really begins with empathy and ends with empathy. And so when we're thinking about the discussions that we're having around emotions and passion, really that human approach has to start with that. It has to start with the heart of the human, who our audiences is, what they're feeling, what is happening around them, what is their environment. It really is around the idea of not just putting yourself in someone else's shoes, but walking a whole lot in those shoes before you actually understand that experience that they're having. I think when we're looking at a global approach to business, to organizations, to delivering education, it is extremely important to think about this empathy level from an angle that I'm learning it's consumed differently. We are all looking right now at the same graphic illustration. We're all consuming it differently because of our own biases in our own lived experiences, where we come from in our own environments. So when we take a look at something like this and we think about education, for example, when we think about business and how our content will land, whether it's a product or service, it lands differently every time, even though the product may be the same, because people are consuming it differently. So taking time to actually empathize with our audiences as a first step will enable our stories to land best, will enable our messages to really connect with our humans the way that we want to. The second step is defining. So we take time to actually define the story mission, the audience, the character, the plot, and that conclusion. In fact, to me, defining storytelling was very important. I didn't have a great definition for storytelling. I researched a whole lot. I did a lot of interviews with storytellers around the world in different brands and industries and different levels of stories. And I really just could not find the best definition. What I did find was what it was not. I asked them what it is not. And so they gave me a lot of answers on what storytelling was not. And with that, I was able to define my own storytelling approach. For me, storytelling is an emotional transfer of information, an emotional transfer of data. And it's done through the character, the plot, and the conclusion. Those 3 things are the basics of story. But if we're going to lord it over, if we're going to take over and master storytelling, we really think about how this plays out very meticulously. Who is our audience? Back to that empathy level. Where do they live? What's happening to them right now? What will happen to them tomorrow? What are they experiencing? Who are the characters? Am I a main character in the story? Is the business a main character? Is the student? Is the organization? Whatever the case may be. What are the playing different, what characters are playing in different roles? Are there emerging characters? Are there heroes in the story, or they're not? They don't have to be. How does this unfold? What is the story mission? Why are we building the story? What do we want to tell our audiences with the story? In essence, what emotions are we trying to evoke from this storytelling approach? Storytelling, if it is emotional at its best, if it is emotional, will capture the audience in a way that we talk about passion, we talk about inspiration. It really doesn't go inconsequential. It captures us in the midst of all of this noise and chatter and digital content. It will capture our attention because it is emotional. So the plot really plays out the way that we define that plot. I showcase different ways to tell a story. A lot of people talk about the hero's journey, for example, as a story technique. That's a very popular one, possibly the main one. There's more than that. There's 1,000 of them. And if it doesn't exist, you can create it, right? Story designing really is about you thinking, well, this story plot doesn't work with my audience. I'm going to go try something else. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to start with the climax. I'm going to start with the end, whatever the case may be. So you really take time to define all of these aspects and give your story a mission. You basically ask yourself, what do I want my story to evoke? And then you find a universal truth is something that I coined this term of universal truth, because to me, when I think about those emotions, if we are seeking emotions from our audiences from a story, we've defined what that is. An example is back to Microsoft. Microsoft's story changed. Our story was about putting a desk on a PC on every desk in every home. And that was empowering. But truly, when Satya came in again about 6 years ago, he really changed the narrative on purpose so that we can now be contending with the Googles and the Amazons and the Facebooks of the world. And so for us, empowerment became the universal truth. That I call the universal truth because it is an emotion. It is a feeling. I feel empowered or not. I don't have to explain the word empowerment. I don't have to tell you what it means. All of us come from different places, different genders, different ages, different generations, but we all understand the feeling of empowerment. So ask yourself, what feeling is your story going to spark that is powerful enough, that is universal enough that everyone understands that feeling? Feelings of sadness, embarrassment, feelings of inspiration, feelings of happiness. These are all things that we can attest to as humans. We don't have to explain them. That is the universal truth. And then you ideate. Right? The third step is really to ideate. Take time to brainstorm ideas on the story. Once you've defined your characters, you've defined the mission, you know what it's set out to do. Now you have time and spend a lot of time to create these stories, storyboard it, do some different types of brainstorming sessions that can help you layer up the story in different ways. Ask yourself, can we combine a character? Can we move a character? Can we change the plot? What is the color of my story? What does it smell like if I had to explain the smell of my story? Really give it depth in the layers that it deserves so that it can land best, all with the same intention of what you're delivering to your audience. Who is that audience and where do they live? And then you actually create the alchemy. You become a story lord by creating these concepts, prototyping, really. These are small concepts, low cost, low effort. You don't have to create one big story with big production and funding behind it. You really can create small stories that you're disseminating to your audience little by little, and people begin to consume. Edward shared a story that I actually posted on LinkedIn. It was a video of me receiving my boxes of my book. I wasn't supposed to get them in my house. They were supposed to go to Miami because I had a book launch event. That was a story. And I recognized the moment. I recognized that I could get on LinkedIn, go live. I was not dolled up. I wasn't wearing makeup, but it was me raw showing up and sharing with my audience a moment. That was alchemy. That was me recognizing I had a story in my hands that would land well because it had emotion. It was emotionally driven. And so you begin to think about those concepts. That is a prototype. I didn't know how it was going to land. I was testing it. And that's the final step is that you test this, right? You test the story with your audiences. You recognize your audiences are consuming content differently, in different formats, in different ways, in different things that you can use visually, in written form. However, today we have so many technologies, so many tools to land stories differently. And I beg you to consider which ones and how you can get encouraged to drive different types of storytelling in your world for your audiences. It is an emotional approach. And when it does land, people respond. And that is as best as it can get. Story lording really is grabbing your customer's attention, your audience's attention, your partner's attention, really at an emotional level so that they can respond. And they will respond in the midst of the noise. I will leave it here. The 5 steps to design thinking, to designing your story. There it is. Empathize, define, ideate. Prototype your stories, different concepts, different ways, different colors, different type forms, and test them. Test them in the market by asking yourself, did it evoke the emotion that I set out to evoke? If the answer is yes, you're going the right direction. If it's not, go back to the circle. Go back and think about other ways. I've landed well, I've landed flat, and I've learned the flat moments to say, okay, what happened next? And I can go to the next step and do it over and over again. The beautiful thing about storytelling is that because it is emotional when it's good, your audience will respond emotionally. So you will know you're actually doing this, you're headed the right direction. That's all I got for you today.
Thank you, Miri. That's absolutely fantastic. I'd like to, you kind of paraphrased in 15 minutes what it's taken probably most people 15 months to try and, the story you told about people telling you what it wasn't.
Yes.
So many. I think there's been so many books explaining what it isn't, but never giving you the nugget of information to win over the audiences, to engage the ideas and the emotions that you share. And certainly as we as a community here with TAFFD, as we meld different disciplines, we all communicate in different ways. I sometimes liken it, my background's electronic and telecoms engineering, and I always liken it to me speaking Greek or something else. It doesn't matter what I say, it will come out in a different language, even though think I'm talking English. It's how it's perceived. So I'd like to open up the floor to others. So if you'd like to raise your hands, if you've got any questions for Miri. We've got quite a few in the room today. Give people a few moments. Silence.
I know
I think you completely wooed them, Miri.
What's that?
I think you've completely wooed them
in
terms of.
You know, that's part of storytelling. So I did my job today. That's exactly what I came prepared. It's important to note that it is a verb, right? I really want to, if you remember anything from this, is that storytelling never ends, that it's an approach to connectedness. It's driven by empathy, and it's something that we all get to do differently. As an engineer that you are, Edward, you're actually one of my toughest audiences for storytelling, and I've learned the type of storytelling that you like. I've done a lot of homework for engineers specifically. You like pointer blogs, pointed how to get to the point, tell me how it is, and let me go do it, and not a lot of fluff to the content. I have an audience that is younger. I coach young women in tech. They like a lot of fluff. They like a lot of content. They like a lot of colors. They like a lot of introduction to my stories and a lot of relational content. So it's really important, again, that you recognize your audiences, especially when they're hybrid, because you can drive the same theme, empowerment to you and empowerment to a young girl, but it lands differently. So also being aware of that.
Yeah. One thing, your book also talks about brand.
Yes.
And there's been, over the last few years, lots of things about personal brand being the key thing. And it's taken me a long time. Perhaps it's just I'm not very good or very quick on the uptake, but it's about being authentic and being open and sharing exactly what your core values are. And unfortunately, I think if people don't understand what their core values are or what they are of their business or their sector, it's very difficult to actually come across consistent and congruent with the message, which is also plays into the whole thing with the storytelling as well. So if you're then not consistent, and the story doesn't land as well as you think it could have done.
Yes, absolutely. I actually wrote an entire chapter to authenticity, chapter 6, which is my favorite. I'm very raw in my content. So I actually do talk about that. I do talk about the authenticity comes from those core values that you set for yourself. In fact, in the whole chapter, I ask people to consider creating a set of values for themselves, a mission statement for themselves. What are they setting out to do? We grow up, and sometimes, most of the times, we draw the values from our culture, our parents, our learned experiences. And so we go out to the world like, hey, this is what I believe. I believe I shouldn't lie or kill somebody. Those are my values, societal values, and all of these things. But truly, we become most authentic when we take our own set of values. We create that for ourselves to say, this is how I'm going to go do life and business. This is who I am and what I believe in. We have in my family a set of 5, what we call family 5, our core values, and we live by that. And so I think that's what brings authenticity, is you not second guessing your values because somebody told you that's what you should do or should be. Truly, you actually define your values for yourself. That's the definition stage. And that's part of the character that you're going to go out and play. That's where storytelling and personal branding match, where you say, my story is this is my origin story. I was born in this country. I was whatever. I was brought up this way. Up until this point, I didn't own my story. The next chapter of my life, I'm going to own. I'm going to set up my values, and I'm going to go with this mission out there.
And I think that also plays a lot into purpose as well, purposeful business. If you don't know what your core values are, or you don't have clarity around what those are, then it's very difficult to move to the next stage. Let's say, well, our purpose is, it's not just a tick box exercise of saying, well, our mission is X, Y, Z, and we've written our mission statement, and it bears no relation to the core values of the individuals that are involved. And I think that's the journey that TAFFD as an organisation has embodied a lot of that. We're very fortunate to have a lot of very conscious beings amongst our members, as you probably may have gathered from some of the early conversations. So I think the whole story brand the underlying building blocks for it are you know, that being consciously aware of your personal core values, what those are, and how those relate to business, but also to be able to understand how we create a purposeful business, something that then blends into societal values and how we influence those for the better, rather than for where they have been heading, which is not in a particularly good place.
Yeah, and I'll add one thing to that. Thank you for bringing that up, because I did a 4-month research of obvious trends. Obvious trends are trends that you see ideas popping up almost as outliers, but they do have a thread when you actually look deeper into them. So I took a long time. I came up with actually 12 of those concepts that came off from those ideas. And those of them, the thread was truly around purpose. So first of all, our newer generations are seeking to brands and organizations that are purpose-driven. They're not only looking at the product or service that they offer. They see themselves attached to the brand as an extension of themselves, and they believe and they say, will I work for this corporation if it has the same set of values? Will I buy from this corporation if it has the same? Will I go to the school if the school has the same set of values that I do? So now we're seeing this more prevalent idea of purpose-driven organizations. The second one is that brands are entities today. So now they're being seen as a voice. They have to have a stance in society. They don't just have products and services to offer. They have to show up with a voice and a story that is prevalent in society beyond themselves, beyond the bottom line. So that's really also interesting when you think about storytelling, how the brands are going to set up themselves, especially now. We're seeing during this pandemic, brands that are winning are those that are empathetically thinking about changing the narrative about the offers that they have and the services that they offer to drive something differently, to connect with their customers beyond the bottom line. So really, truly important. This empathy is driven from many angles and forces us to think differently. So for me, storytelling is a blueprint to cultural activation.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I'm just having a quick look to see if there was any other hands that were being put up. Which is someone else is waiting in the waiting room. We don't. I know that you have got quite a busy schedule today, so I'd love to talk for a lot longer
I would
with you about this.
Here the entire day. I apologize that I kind of came in late and have to go, but yes, I'm sorry. I have a whole lot going on my end with our interns and everyone. So
no, that's fine. It's completely understandable. We are obviously recording the session, so we'll make those available. And we just are very, very grateful for you to share your story and your thoughts and the background to those thoughts as well. Thank you very much.
Very honored to be here. Thank you for having me. And if you need to connect with me further, you have further questions around storytelling, I'll be glad to answer them.
Fantastic. Well,
thank
you very much. Okay, our next session, if I can, excuse me, I can control my mouse.
Edward, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Sadeghi is going to run a short meditation before our next speaker.
Oh, that was right. Yes.
Hello, everyone. I came in a little bit late, so I'm glad I got to catch Miri's presentation. That was very enlightening. I didn't know she was going to speak about that. Nice to meet you, Edward. Do we have time, William, or what time do we have?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm just double checking. I think we're okay until 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah,
my intention was to support everybody, kind of do a refresher, little grounding practice if everybody's open to it. And yeah, if we can, I'll do like 15-20 minutes and wrap up around 9:55 or so. If that's okay with you, Edward.
Yeah, that sounds good for me.
All right. I hope everybody is ready to kind of step into some grounding and meditation. So basically, so for those that don't know me, I'm a colleague of William's. I specialize in a lot of transformative work and in the mindfulness meditation space. So there's a couple different ways we could do this. If those that are listening that have their cameras off, if they're comfortable, feel free to get seated, close your eyes, really get centered in. Really the intention for me guiding you is to whatever intention I'm going to in a moment invite you to do 3 things. 1, set an intention within your heart of what you want to experience in this meditation practice for the next 10 minutes or so. And then 2, I'll walk you through, if you're comfortable with your eyes closed, through a visualization process that's scientifically based to help really circulate some energy in your body and really get grounded and centered for the rest of the sessions of the day. So, and then lastly, to kind of come back to the room and to really get centered in presence for the next session. So if I can invite everybody to really close their eyes, get seated, get comfortable, get grounded in your body. I do have some noise to really bring some harmonics in and sound healing to you. So take a moment to close your eyes, get centered in your body. And really, I invite everybody that's listening, if you're present, to really go into your heart, center in your body, really feel your mind, your awareness, your energetic presence dropping down into your body. And take a moment to really feel into your presence. While you're here today listening, if you're speaking later, what's your intention for the day? What's your intention for now and for the day? What do you hope, intend, envision? Take a moment to set that intention. It's like a seed planted into your field of consciousness. What do you intend to experience today? And then take a moment to extend that one step further. What's your vision? If you're speaking today, or if you're on the board for TAFFD or an ally, strategic partner, what's your vision for your involvement? What do you envision for the organization as far as its growing and its impact? Take your intention and extend it into the future now. Really feel into the intentionality of your vision. Then take a moment now, and I want everybody to draw their attention and their awareness into their feet. If you're sitting on a chair, feel your feet. If you're wearing shoes or sandals, feel your feet. Bring your awareness into your feet, into your toes. Start with your big toes. Feel the presence of your toes one by one. Then extend that awareness into your soles of your feet. And I want everybody to visualize almost like a valve that you can open, this valve at the bottom of each foot. And it sometimes helps to say open in your head or in your field of consciousness. Feel it opening each sole of your foot. There's electromagnetics that we connect to through the earth. So take a moment to open to that connection. And then draw your attention up, your awareness up into your shins, your calves, your ankles. See if there's any tension that you can breathe into or relax. Bringing our awareness into our body does wonders on a biochemical level. Draw your attention up to your knees now. Behind your knees, seldom do we take our awareness to the space behind our knees. Moving up now to your thighs, if you're sitting on a chair, to your buttocks, feeling yourself sitting. What does it feel like? The sensations of what you're sitting on. Take your awareness into how you're sitting, your posture. Move up now into your stomach and into your back, feeling your breath in your stomach. Saying in your mind's eye, my awareness is in my breath. Feeling literally with every inhale, your mind settling more in your stomach. Bring your awareness now up to your chest and to your upper back. Do you have any tension there? Can you drop it down with every breath, allowing, surrendering, opening? Go to your shoulders now. Is it possible to drop your shoulders? Is it possible to relax while you're staying alert, holding these two energies, these two polarities of being awake and relaxed? Go to your neck, your throat. Breathe into your neck and throat, really relaxing now, feeling the breath pass through your trachea. Now move to your head. Bring your awareness to your eyes, with your eyes closed, looking at the black behind your eyelids. Taking a moment to honor the sense of sight that we all have. And move your awareness to your ears. Listening to the gong, to my voice. Maybe there's background noise, allowing all of them to be present, accepting every sensation. Move to your nose, your sense of smell. What do you smell right now? What do you sense? What's present in your nose? Then move to your sense of taste. What does it taste like in your mouth? Maybe you had a drink before this, or maybe you taste your saliva. Really be present with what is, bringing your full sensory awareness, your full energetic awareness into your body. And I want you to go to the center of your brow. Breathe into the center of your brow and visualize a ball of light. Breathe into this center. There's no right or wrong. Everything that you're doing is perfect. Simply breathe into this energy center. Also the house of the pineal gland. Breathe into this orb of light. And with every inhalation, visualize it expanding. With every exhalation, visualize this ball contracting. Inhale, see the ball expand, this orb of light in your brow. Exhale, visualize it contract. I invite you to say open and feel the center of your brow, your pineal gland opening, whatever that feels like to you. There's no right or wrong. Breathing in, breathing out. Now on the next exhale, I want you to visualize this orb of light like an elevator shaft going down your spine with this next exhale, going down past your neck, through your spine, into your heart. Bring your full energetic awareness in this orb of light into your heart. Breathe in here. With every inhale, feel this orb of light expanding in your heart. My mind is in my body. My energetic awareness is in my heart. Inhaling, seeing this orb of light in your heart grow big with every inhale, and then with every exhale, feel it contract. It's pulsing life force, energy, biocurrent. Inhale into your heart, exhale out of your heart. Maybe you're holding tension, anxiety, fear, whatever's present as you inhale and exhale. I invite you to visualize black smoke being exhaled out. Any old energies, any dross energies that no longer serve you, visualize yourself exhaling them out as black smoke. And with every inhale, visualize new white light coming into this orb in your heart. Inhaling in, adding to this white light in your heart. Exhaling, black smoke no longer serves you. Now remember your intention here. Like a seed planted into this white light. Watch it, feel it, sense it. Fill yourself with this knowing that your intention is already achieved. Time is not linear. You're already accomplished and completed this intention. Feel that sense of accomplishment now. Your intention being achieved and actualized now. Inhale and exhale through your heart. Then on the next inhale and exhale, I invite you to drop down through this elevator of your spine, drop this light down to the last stop, your stomach, your solar plexus. Visualize the white light stopping here, this white light that you're now breathing into, feeling your breath and the white light becoming one. Being present in your abdomen, in your solar plexus. With every inhale, expanding it out, feeling this energy grow, this confidence grow, this vision grow. With every exhale, releasing any doubt, any fear, any anxiety, any uncertainties, releasing it all. Watching this white light grow with every inhale. And with every exhale, contract. I am present in my body. I let my intuition lead the way. My mind and my heart are in harmony. All parts of me, all energies within me are in harmony. And feel that harmony now. And now on the next inhale, I invite you to inhale and expand this energy, this ball of light throughout your body. Feel this glow expanding through your chest, through your arms, down into your legs, down into your head. Feel it expanding into your neck, into your cranium. Feel this orb of light becoming one with all of you now. Now visualize it expanding into the room, your intention, your vision, your desires for a better future. Start to be a beacon of that energy, emit it outwards. Visualize this white light growing into the room, expanding out into the community you're in. See yourself covering the country you are in with this white light, with this essence and extension of your being, your consciousness, this vision, this desire you have. Now visualize it wrapping around the globe. See yourself as this white light expanding, encasing the globe, like a net or a web of light around the globe. Feel yourself holding the presence of the whole earth in your heart and in your stomach, in your center of your being. Know that you are one with all that there is. And with every breath, inhale, feel yourself pulsing with the biorhythm of the earth, the Schumann frequencies. Become one with the earth that's inside of you. With every inhale, feeling the pulse of the earth and your own pulse, become one. With every exhale, feeling the exhale or pulsations of the earth. Now expand on your intention. What would it feel like if you had accomplished this world peace, world change, whatever it looks like for you, your vision for being a part of this organization? If you're a speaker, you're a participant, what's your intention if it were accomplished? What would it feel like? Feel that fullness now in the center of your being. Feel that joy, fill with joy. Fill with gratitude now. Fill with health and harmony. Inhale, exhale. Now visualize yourself coming back from around the globe, back to the center of your being in your heart and solar plexus. I call all parts of me back to me now. I come back to the present moment. I am here, fully present. Coming back to your body, wiggling your toes, wiggling your fingers, opening your eyes when it feels appropriate, and really centering in the moment, taking a moment to ground and settle and center. All right.
Thank you, Hans.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I could have done with that at 5 a.m. this morning.
Well, here's what I invite you into. Quantum loop back, since time is not linear, and extend this vibration into that moment in linear time.
I shall send it forward
Forward.
throughout the rest of the day, because the evening session this evening for me will run until I forget what time it was. I think it's 6 a.m. or something. So in the UK, so we're on a marathon session here.
Yeah, if you want, and Will, you can ping me if you want. I can come back and do a refresher if you have breaks. I don't mind. I'm here to support you all, and I honor the vision and contributions each of you is making. So thank you, and I'm glad it resonated.
Well, I'll let you into a little secret, because there's a lot of back scenes of people when they do Zoom calls, like they don't have any shorts on or anything like that. I'm actually sat here in my full suit, but I'm barefooted, so I'm definitely grounded.
Ah, I like that. Yeah, that's optimal. You don't have any rubber, any insoles between you and the Earth's grid. That's awesome.
Yeah, I always make sure my shoes are leather soles as well, because everything's gone, you know, very, very plastic or petrochemical based, which is an insulator.
Exactly. It disconnects us from the Schumann frequencies and the Earth's grid, and really takes off our harmonics. Yeah, it's a lot to that. So I honor your insights. We
actually, while we've got a few minutes before our next speaker joins us, I noticed that the Schumann resonance, you know, it's been stuck at 7.83 hertz for the last couple of thousand years. And the reports that I've been seeing over the last, well, since December, they peaked at about 158 hertz. So certainly the Schumann resonance has increased.
It's spiking,
yeah.
Yeah, it's spiking, and it's surreal to see that, because what that means is our consciousnesses are expanding as a correlation to that grid.
Well, that was the insight that I was seeking from you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm very presumptuous. I apologize.
No, we're connected. We're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, definitely. I sense that, definitely. Yeah. So, and there is a lot of theories around that, because the solar flare activity from NASA was peaking already, and you may already know that. I think it was in the early 2000s. So now the Schumann is mirroring the solar flare energy. So it's maybe like the cosmic energies are finally settling on the grid. Is my interpretation of it.
Yeah, I think we could have a whole Zoom conference just on that alone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, fitting with the theme too. Definitely transdisciplinary. Yeah. Well, thank you all, and I appreciated your indulgence.
No, thank you very much, Ass. Feel free to come back.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll go to a couple more meetings, and then I'll stop in and out, and then Will, let me know if you want me to do any more throughout the next couple of days. It'd be an honor.
Thank you, Hans. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Much love to everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
So we have a few minutes before. I'm not sure if our next speaker's already joined us from Cameroon. I was just looking. I did accept a couple of people that were sat in the waiting room into the conference, and I think.
Hello, Edward. This is Aubrey de Grey.
Hello, Aubrey.
Am I scheduled next?
No, I think you're the last of the day, as in.
Okay, the thing you just sent me said 10 a.m. Pacific, but I can do any other time.
Okay, I think it should have said 10 p.m.
Yeah.
10 p.m. Pacific time. So it's actually sort of early hours Europe time.
Okay, fine. Yeah, 12 hours from now. That works for me.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Aubrey.
I'll be seeing you then.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Sorry, bear with me while I look to see if our next speaker is already in the room. Grounding experience. We just had a little meditation in between the previous speaker and you joining us. So you have a very chilled audience, Fredrik, to present to. I noticed there are a couple of other people that are just joining, so I'll just give them a couple of moments to join. Your excuse me. Your topic is the Strategic International Alliance for Future of Africa. Excuse me.
It's okay.
Would you please just give us a couple of sentences regarding your background and what is bringing you here today from Cameroon?
Okay, so you need me to explain my background, what I've done until now, right?
Yeah, just briefly. So, what has led you to this point, this moment in time, and the work, and what you'll be talking about in your topic?
Okay, so I'm now I do some research about political science and international relations in the University of La Sorbonne in Paris. And also I'm working now with the second biggest organization called UCGLA, Units Global Local Cities of Africa. So we are preparing several programs to help Africa to develop across the culture, the African culture. So basically, that's my work from now for now. And also, I'm studying. Like I said, I was awarded Young Leader of My Generation by the Trans-Montana Forum due to my work because I have also worked in US in the political campaign. I've been involved there. I was also studying in China Normal University, also political science and all relationship between China and Africa. So yes, my background is a bit big. I'm only 29 years old because I've worked in a lot of countries and different regions of the world, but now I'm focusing on Africa. My research are focusing in Africa.
Thank you very much. Sorry, excuse me. Do you have? I didn't receive any slides beforehand. Do you have a slide presentation, or do you just wanted to talk to camera?
No, I will talk to the camera.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, please. What we will do afterwards, we'll have a short session available afterwards for you to answer any questions that people may have. I'll ask people to raise their hands. So please, Fredrik, please enlighten us with your topic.
Okay, great. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my topic, like you said, it's International Conference on Future of Africa, Strategic International Alliance and Africa Future. So I will start by saying that the economies of sub-Saharan Africa have gone through major changes over the last 3 decades. A lot of countries have seen their rate of economic growth increase. The rate of economic growth will be 3% in sub-Saharan Africa in 2020, which is not bad compared to several Western countries. The IMF said that 35% of the population has seen their income increase. But as you can see, the majority of the population will not take advantages of this economic growth. There are still a lot of people that live with less than $2 a day. This is due to the fact that sub-Saharan Africa has not developed its industry of transformation. This continent has 2 options to be able to develop the economic sector by the year 2050. So the first one, I think, that is important for me is branding and sending our images, the images of the African continent. If the government wants to have investors, they need to share another view from Africa. When Western countries and new industrial countries think about Africa, they have in their minds wars, poverty, child labor, and dictators. Everyone forget that Africa have a very rich biodiversity. If you want to bring investors, you have to show them that Africa is the new era of where everything is possible. They have to see the value of where they will put their money. We have a lot of people that can work for foreign companies. If foreign investor wants to invest in African countries, the government has to put them some guarantees that make sure the population will benefit from this foreign investment. First of all, when one government in Africa, one country in Africa, allow a firm to invest in his country, you have to make sure that 65% of the workers of these foreign companies has to be from the African country where they will invest. So 65% of the workers come from the local countries. That is very, very important. And also 50% of the members of the direction has also to be from the African country. So they will learn how to manage a company, and then they will be able to create their own company. Also, when people have good income, they can consume the project that will be sold from this company. If the company come to invest in your country, they will give, of course, a salary to the person, and then this person will be able to consume. I don't know, but I think a lot of people remember that what the Fordism was about. They hire people, these people make projects, and then these people buy these projects they have made. Secondly, I think this foreign company have to invest 5% of their budget to finance, promote, support local initiative. We have to make sure that they take part in the development of the country in efficient way. So the first one, like I said, was branding and selling the image. And also, I think for the African countries, what is very, very important, this is my second point, is going to be the protectionism. I will share with you what protectionism means. Is the economy policy of restricting imports from other countries to methods such as tariff on imported goods, imported quotas, and variety of other government regulation. The African continent have to create a vision on how the country will be in the next 30 years. If you need more industries, make sure that your educational system will promote an education where children will have that vision. When children will finish school, the government should give them support to every initiative. I don't know if if some people that hearing us have been to Ethiopia, but this is what's happening in Ethiopia. And if you see the growth in Ethiopia is very, very great because the government practice some protectionism to help local to build their business. So this new company will hire local workers and create middle classes. This middle class will also be able to consume and help the economic growth. Of course, the state has to make high taxes for foreign projects to help to protect the businesses from local people. So a lot of African countries don't have their own money too. That is my second point. That is my second point inside the second big point. Money is not only about an instrument of measure and conservation of value, legal means of exchange of goods. It's more than that. It's a control of an entire economy. You know, some African countries have their own money, doesn't have their own money. If you go to Central Africa or Western Africa, you will see the state franc. So it's only about the economy, but also being able to decide and be independent. It will build patriotism, and the population will work harder to keep this independence. So to end my presentation, African countries have to create an economic community also, where the border will be removed for African population, so they don't need visa to travel. So sometimes, I will take an example. Sometimes, if you want to go to Dakar from Douala in Cameroon, it's easier to make a step in Paris and then travel to Dakar. That is not normal. African people, African government, and the African Union has to play a key role on how African people will go to their continent. So to conclude, African country and international investors can play an effective role in the development of Africa by investing with the regulation of the government. African government have a key role to change and permit a better future without massive corruption by putting the local population in the center of the process. All the government need to build a strong patriotism spirit in the countries. Also, they should think about the process to facilitate the moving of Africans so they can travel all over the countries, the continent. I finish. Hello.
Thank you, Fredrik. But you bring up an interesting point. I know that we've got a couple of hands that have been raised for questions. There, whilst you were speaking, what was playing in the back of my mind was in our current global restricted travel. Various governments around the world have placed restrictions on the movement of people. Effective. They call it lockdown, but we couldn't rightly call it a quarantine because quarantine would be that you were already ill and therefore being quarantined to stop the spread of a disease or anything. How do you see within Africa, within African states, as we emerge from this global restriction and of travel between countries and between towns and villages, for that matter, how do you see that might play out in a sort of a post-COVID-19 environment?
The post-COVID-19 environment, I think, will be the first question we have to, I have to ask in my mind to myself is if the COVID-19 will hit Africa harder than the community, international community is thinking. I think that's the first question. If it hits Africa like everybody, like the international community thinks, I think it will change maybe a lot of things. Maybe not a lot of things because African country is not like European one, if I can take this example, because African don't travel a lot inside the country like European, because now you see the border are closed in European Union. So I don't think it will change a lot of things. It will hit hard, of course, the economy, but Africa, as I say, I can say it's very, very sometimes it's not really prepared to these situations. So if COVID-19 hits hard, maybe it can hurt a lot the economy of Africa, but not as the European one, because African economy is on a way. Is only building for the moment. We try to build an economy, efficient economy, so it's not going to have the same impact as in Western countries.
I know that as part of the lockdown process, a lot of countries, African states, were already banning flights and individuals flying from a lot of the Italy and the US and those, even going back a few months, those that were starting to report high numbers of cases. Do you think that there will be more opportunities for Africans to travel not just between their own cities within the same country, but across borders?
I think it's time for Africans to watch the continent. I grew up in Cameroon, so I think when you are young, you only think to go to Western countries because you think it's the better life and all of that. I think now is the time for Africa. I think this COVID-19 will bring Africans to look to them face and say, okay, maybe what happened outside of the continent is not really better than what's happening inside the continent, and it starts to build a strong community African community to make businesses between us, because as you can see, China is the China hosts all the economy. China is the, I can say, the manufacturer of this world, and we can see that it's very, very difficult for country to bring some mask from China now. So I think Africa has to say, okay, we want to develop our ground. We need to work hands by hands to see how we can now be a strong continent to be able to, how can I say, to face a crisis by with only African, not related to the world, because as you can see, a crisis can happen in Asia, affect all the world, but now Africa needs to say, okay, this can happen. It's time for us to build a strong manufacturing, to have the possibility, if we need a great hospital, to have where all the ill people can come and all of that. I think that's the major point now. African has to face the reality and say, okay, this world is going to be difficult. We have to be ready to face every crisis together.
And that's something that I've been an advocate for a number of years. Was, you know, if you're going to produce product for a particular market, then the companies that are doing that research and development and that manufacturing should actually look to the market that they are going to sell to employ local people. So, you know, it's no good just following the boilerplate template of, okay, we'll go and do production in the Far East for target markets in Africa, and there are a number of tech for good type projects and companies that have invested time and are actually developing manufacturing. I noticed some in Ethiopia and others, but you know, I agree there should be an awful lot more. I can probably count on one hand the number of companies or projects that I've seen that are doing that, and there should be an awful lot more for the size of the economies. I'd like to come to sorry, apologies if I mispronounced your name. I've just unmuted you. Udo?
Yeah, play. I'm with you. Okay, for my own question, I want to ask Mr. Fredrik. Hello. Hello. How are you? I'm fine. When you started, you call on Southern Africa. I don't know whether if your entire project or what you're talking about, it's mainly from the Southern Africa down, you neglecting the Western and other East part of Africa. Is your project on Southern Africa alone, because you started with Southern Africa?
No, I started with suburban Africa.
Okay, and now you make mention of 2 points: the branding and also the protection given to other African countries. What about, like, let's say for a country like Nigeria, how do you make the image of Africa really come out better for Nigeria?
I think, in my opinion, Nigeria is doing very good. Now, as you can see, the music, there is some famous singer that work internationally. So I think Nigeria for branding is very, very great. The Nigeria culture is adopted by a lot of countries, not in Europe, but the African community that live in Europe are aware of Nigerian music and Nigerian culture, Nigerian reading. So I think for branding, Nigeria is very, very good. He's doing very, very good, because you have a strong economy, good African economy. You are the first, I think. Yes, you are the first in the economy in Africa. So you are doing very, very good. Also in the branding, because all over the world, when you go somewhere, I've been in US, I've been in a lot of countries. When you talk about Nigeria, they relate it to local music, also to a very, very dynamic country.
Okay, and for protection, how do we, like, if you want to go into a personal let's say you want to have a personal business in Nigeria and you want to have a protection because the taxes from the government also had a part to play on the individual. How will it be very easy for you to have the protection rights for an individual?
I think you talk about taxes, you talk about Nigerians, basically,
yes.
The situation of Nigeria.
Yes.
But I've been in Ethiopia for a long time. I was traveling in the African Union, so I know that when you want to open a business in Ethiopia, the state will not tax you for 5 years.
Okay.
So I think it's very great. You have time to grow, time to establish, and then they will come at you to have some tax. So I think if you want to help, local to have some businesses, you should not tax them for a while, and then when you tax them, you make sure that you don't tax them the same as you will tax how can I say,
a private company?
A private company.
Okay.
Foreign company.
Okay. I'm good with that for now.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello? Someone is hearing me?
Oh, sorry, I've gone on mute again. For some
Okay.
reason. I was just saying, obviously, you're talking about brand and how important it is for Africa to brand itself. And obviously, the previous speaker was on that particular topic. You know, probably on a more generic level, the ability for storytelling, but how it's based around core values, and with that purpose-driven, and the fact that the global consumerism has moved more towards purpose-driven purchasing. And I just wondered, when you're talking about brand, presumably that's coming from the core values for those individual African economies, because they are quite diverse from my experience. Would you concur with that?
With the fact that branding is important?
No, you've already mentioned about the fact how branding is important for Africa, yes, as a continent, but individually, as you know, you've worked in quite a few quite different African economies, and obviously that brand image would change. Those core values might change from one economy to the other, or do you see that there is some synchronicity?
I think yes. I think if you I just talked to my Nigerian fellow just 2 minutes ago, and I told him that one of the difference between Nigeria and other countries, that the Nigerian have a big great brand, knows how to sell their image internationally, and I think that is very important.
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, they've got a very established film and music industry.
Yes, they have it, because also I think it's not only about the fact that there are a lot of people, so they can. I think Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa. I think also this is important, but I think the government did everything to help the economy to export itself. And to the image, the country to be known as a dynamic one, and then investors want to come and invest. If you take another country in Africa, you will see that the government doesn't really have a strategy to sell the image, because you can be a poor country, but you have things that will bring maybe tourism. I don't know if you were in Africa before. It seems like yes.
Yeah.
You will see that in every country you have a beautiful biodiversity. So I think if you can, you need to start step by step. Okay, we have maybe this mountain that are very, very great. How can I build something around this mountain that will bring tourism? And then things can start like this. So I think its branding is very, very important. Despite if you are poor or rich, you have to sell what is very good in your environment to bring people in your country.
Fantastic. We're almost drawing this session to a close. Just last opportunity if anyone else would like to ask Fredrik some questions. No, I think you've done an excellent job there, Fredrik. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure, sir.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
So we've got a few more minutes before our next session, which will be at past. Excuse me. And I think Michael Fisher's already joined. I think he's still on the bridge. I don't think he dropped off. No, he is. Okay, great. Michael, are you with us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, fantastic. I just wanted to check before we start in a couple of minutes.
I see.
That we still had audio for you and everything else.
Good.
Did you have any slides to share, or you?
I sent the slides in to you folks.
Okay. Did you want to share them and control them? I mean, that was purely for me to have them as a backup. I can share them for you.
I wouldn't mind if you would. I'll just say next slide.
Okay, that's fine. Just give me a few seconds then, just to pull those up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Please, if you are not speaking, kindly mute your background.
Our primal instincts for survival and the association that we have with certain words. And I thank you for sharing that defense intelligence strategies. I shall try and, well, I will endeavor to use those rather than use the words of fear-based and all the rest of it personally.
Great. Yeah, I don't know how much time we got, but
we've got a couple of minutes before the next presentation.
It is an important point. You see Four's up on the slide here, his book called Point of Departure Theory. As an indigenous perspective, he studied many indigenous traditions around the world and sort of tried to come up what are the general characteristics of an indigenous worldview that you could find that are common. There's obviously tons of differences in the diversity, but he did find some commonalities. And one of the key commonalities, and it's in my book in the slide before, but the point being is he said that we're a social species, so we're very susceptible to following leaders. We don't have everybody who's going to make the best decisions about how to handle the predator. Usually it's a lead or dominant, could be female, could be male. And we tend to follow, because it's just efficient to do that as a social species, not have a whole bunch of people trying to make up their minds when you got really intense situations. There's a fire, there's a volcano, there's a predator, whatever. So he said that creates a certain kind of trance experience. We are very susceptible to going into a light trance experience when we're under a condition of fear. Right? A quick impingement, and that can be triggered by a word, a sound, a siren, right? Or a particular word. Hey, you! Even that, and all of a sudden, and it's in that moment, he's a hypnotherapist as well, and he says, in the moment that your fear is up, you're in a state of tragedy or stress or distress, we are very easily conditioned to have somebody say something that goes deeply down into our unconscious, subconscious, and it's held there. And that's how they get control of us, through the use of words and language and colors and flags and things like that, because we're in a state of crisis. So governments and powers, unfortunately, have an agenda. If you want to control the people, control their fear, and then you can control and give them messaging basically to be hypnotized. But we can dehypnotize that. That's the good news. Don't have time to go into that today. Thanks a lot.
No, thank you very much. I know that we do have one hand up, but we have sort of run our course, unfortunately.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, there will be an opportunity, I guess, if people would like to write to you.
Write to me is best.
Yeah.
I won't be able to attend the rest of the conference. Yeah, thanks.
No, but thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Just bear with me as I fight with my mouse 1 second. So apologies for that. My mouse has decided to jump all over the place. So our next speaker is Dr. Catherine Demetriades. She is a polymath on steroids. She is an awesome woman, very talented, not just in sciences, but also in the arts. I'm very, very pleased to welcome you here to this conference, and you'll be sharing with us the emotional biophysics of behaviour of COVID-19. So I know that I think you may have your own slides, Catrix. Will you be sharing your own slides, or?
Oh no, I don't have any slides. That's fine.
You can talk to your avatar.
No problem.
Please continue with your address.
Okay. Hi, this is Catrix, and first of all, I would like to thank everyone here for inviting me and allowing me to share this concept with the world. For I believe it so strongly that to the point where a movement has been created by myself and Marty Ocean Eagle Daniel for empowering the 3 dimensions of human existence, allowing people to come out of this pandemic as warriors. And I really loved the last speech from Professor Fisher. It was just outstanding, and all about fear and ancestral memory, which is something I'm going to talk about. So consciousness has risen in the world today, and we can't allow a boogeyman in the closet to take over our lives in fear, you know. As the old saying goes, the mind is a beautiful servant and a dangerous master. So talking about disease now, whenever a disease entity is more organized than you are, it takes over. No one can fight an enemy they can't see, basically. So I'm here to discuss the biophysics of COVID-19, the virus, the enemy no one can see. And it's time to observe it differently. I'm a multi-scientist, and I have different disciplines in which I understand things on a multidimensional aspect. Biophysics is a highly interdisciplinary field capable of merging with many other branches of science, such as biochemistry, medical physics, cell biology, microbiology, mathematics, and immunology, and so forth. Traditionally, virology, like biophysics, has been an intradisciplinary field as well. In fact, there has always been a strong interaction between these 2 areas. There are many examples of this intense collaboration in the study of protein-lipid interactions, membrane dynamics, and ion channels. More recently, the research on intrinsically disordered proteins has also been a meeting point for virology and biophysics. Now, I was inspired by a comment on Facebook when AI Koi Fukumoto said, "Doctors are superhumans and immune to everything. It's a mental state as well as a physical, emotional, and spiritual one. They're also multi-talented and integrated human beings. You see, they observe disease differently. As an enemy, they need to conquer for the patient. I can't imagine that if in my treating over 25,000 patients in my day led me to catch anything from their sickness, I wouldn't be here today, right?" So this comment led me to ignite my understanding of how electrons change once observed. As you may all know, I'm also a physicist. So let's talk about that. When a quantum observer is watching quantum mechanics states, that particle can also behave as a wave. So in other words, when under observation, electrons are being forced to behave like particles and not like waves. Thus, the mere act of observation affects their behavior. So electrons know they're being observed when they're forced to interact with a particle or a photon with light, which causes a collapse in their wave function. So to be observed, electrons have to interact with another particle, which is a very incredible phenomenon. So it's forced to interact with your inner light, your essence. By observing the enemy within, by observing the entity, which is the virus, we bring the subconscious to the conscious, and now you can deal with it in another light, so to speak. So we are enlightened. You have an epiphany, Greek meaning all mysteries coming to the surface. Now, I've dealt a lot with disease on a molecular level, on a biophysics level. Whenever an entity is trying to invade the body, it uses the laws of similars. What it will do is use emotions such as chaos, fear, any type of disruption, so that it can make you recognize that it's part of you, so that it can enter your energy field and your influential matrix as such. Now, whenever somebody has an influential matrix, an influential experience, there's a type of radiation that occurs, and a domino effect in the body. So what happens is your electromagnetics will attract people, places, circumstances, events, in order for you to reinforce the same energy, the same emotion, the same type of radiation. And now we're programmed until we're 13 years old, and then we're on automatic pilot. So now this entity has its own intelligence. Now, COVID-19 is a virus. A virus has its own intelligence. It's alive, if you will. It is energetically causing, by inducing these emotions of fear, you're automatically having the onset of infection, the onset of adrenaline draining away all your nutrients, and just a chain reaction of things. So how I see COVID-19 is that, and I'll repeat it again, whenever a disease is more organized than you are, it takes over. So I understand it to be an entity that has its own intelligence, and which has used the laws of similars to invade humans by igniting the ancestral memories of the past to enter into the now and the future. So it will drain a human of life force, and use all its possible mental weaknesses to manifest into the physical. As every experience is logged into a DNA level, the virus acts upon the memories of the past. Here we are going to the not only ancestral memory, but the memories of your past and your ancestors, in order to create its reality as true fact in the present. So a pandemic has happened every 100 years so far, and as history repeats itself on all dimensions, we're facing ancestral memory disguised as a virus. So, we really need to shift our consciousness and start thinking differently, and understanding how everything affects us on a multidimensional level. And I really loved what Professor Fisher said about fearism, and looking at the world in a different fearlessness. So that's why we're trying to create a movement in which we help people go from victims to warriors. I mean, this is really has gone far enough. And giving people the knowledge of their influential matrix, their human matrix, their the dimension of the physical being, the dimension of the mental, and the spirit. You know, once you've broken someone's spirit, there's just everything will break down. All mechanisms will break down. And if you raise someone's spirit, all mechanisms just fire up in order to create that very thing that that person has a goal for. So ancestral memory and pandemics, let me discuss that for a little bit. So let's say that you get into any type of situation. Let's say I put someone in a jungle or a war zone or somewhere where they have to survive. Their body needs to defend itself. Their mind needs to defend itself, and so does their spirit. Now, if your ancestral memory does not have the ability to have all the mental, physical, spiritual, or energetic tools, it is trying to find any type of information that it can defend itself. If it doesn't, then it will, the virus will be able to invade you and become lethal to your being. If your ancestral memory does have all those abilities, then you'll either not get it at all or survive it very easily. So sorry for my dogs. I live in nature, so. So that's I'm on a mission on helping people understand things on a multidimensional level. Everybody understands this body, mind, spirit cliche, but you know, their minerals have a energetic, mental, emotional effect. So do plants. So do flowers. So do different electromagnetic energies. Now, as I said, electrons are forced to behave differently because they're forced to, you know, confront light. So when we're enlightened, when we have an epiphany, when you bring all the mysteries to the surface, as we say, shine the light or see things in another light, your essence, your true essence is going to fight this internal demon called a virus or called whatever seems to be invading you at the time, whether it's an energetic component, a physical component, a mental component. So yes, we need to go back to ourselves. We need to, whenever you're connected to yourself, how can a law of simulate you? Everyone is very unique. The genetic blueprint, the matrix, everyone has a unique matrix, a unique genetic makeup. So being close to our essence will not allow any other foreign entity to be able to mask itself as us, because there's only one us in the entire world. So that's basically what I want to say. And I'd like to, we'd like to give a lot of tools to people. What, you know, rituals, spiritual is a spirit ritual, daily tasks, daily understandings of how we can get out of fear and into a warrior mode and into a fearlessness world, as Dr. Fisher said. So. Hello?
Yes. I have a question, if I may.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yes?
Sorry, what
well,
was that?
hi, this is Idara. Hi, I'm sorry, this is Idara. I just rejoined the meeting. I lost access. So I'm just hearing this this presentation. It is very, very interesting, everything you're saying. But I wonder if by ancestral memory, because I haven't heard much of that concept. Do you mean by the DNA of the individual? Is that where the ancestral memory is? Or is that similar to ancestral memory? And is that what would allow one to be able to, you know, affect their their biological response to certain things. And yes, I'm very fascinated by what you're saying. This is having intelligence. I worked out here before. I was exposed to various infectious diseases like C. diff and MRSA. I had contact with patients that had it. I have a very sensitive immune system. So when I was in contact with those organisms, there was an emotion associated with it. You know, like one was like particularly with C. diff, I remember like a kind of like hopeless kind of a rage, you know. C. diff is like a disease that, you know, has like an unending, elimination and so on. And yeah, I'm so fascinated. It reminds me of something that I learned. I was reading. I was studying nursing at some point. I read that there's a part of the cell function that that scientists could not figure out how cells were able to physically process nutrients. That there was a point of where the nutrients are taken up, but there is a point where they couldn't figure out what was happening for it to convert what it took in into how it processed it. So I think that may be referring to how you're saying that it's a spirit, that things have spirit or energy or whatever, that, you know, that every substance has an energy to it. Or I suspect that, you know, all forms of matter is an energy state. But this is very, very fascinating. So, but yeah, but is that what you mean by the ancestral memory, or is it just memory? I don't know.
What is your name?
My name is Idara.
Idara, that's excellent question. Let me answer that for you. Now, like I said, there are multi dimensions of understandings of this answer. Now, I'm an inventor, and I invented the first actual intelligence in the world. Why would I say actual intelligence instead of artificial intelligence? And bear with me here, you'll understand where I'm getting to. Artificial intelligence is, unless you've recorded a certain thing, the program cannot go into that very piece of information to retrieve it. It's all programming. Now, what I've done is there's something that glows, emanates from your DNA called quanta, which are bundles of light. In that light, much like photography, you know, photo, photon, light, graphy, Greek meaning to write. So a photograph is written in the light. The memories, the sounds, the whole story is in that photo. Now, the same way, nothing can exist outside of us if it's not inside of us. So if it can manifest as a photo, all that information is in your light. Yes, it is in the DNA. Now you've got the biological, you know, DNA, whereas you've got the biological disorders, but or memories, or whether it's good or bad. And then you have the light. Then you have the energetic part, like you said, the part that they cannot explain. If they were to understand light, and for instance, the nucleobases. Since you're a nurse, I believe you're a nurse, from what I understand.
No, I studied it.
Oh, okay.
I studied nursing.
Okay, so nucleobases are the set of cells in which, if they don't have a sufficient amount of light, are not able to transport nutrients or help the body absorb them. Now, this can only be, well, to my knowledge, just to be accurate, it's much more accurate to understand it in a device that uses scalar field technology, which is a very sensitive technology in order for it to understand if there is light in the nucleobases or not. Now, so somebody cannot benefit from light. They're just like a wilted plant in the dark. So they can't even go out into the sunlight and have that energy that they get usually on a beautiful sunny day. So the ancestral memory goes way back into the information of past stories, past emotions, past thought patterns. Every organ is associated with a thought pattern, and also an emotion and a thought pattern, a concept, if you will. So, you know, unless you're looking for the light in the cells and understanding how that's transporting, unless you're looking for the light, the quanta that's shining from the DNA, it'll always remain a mystery. And this is my mission. And my mission is to let people understand this and how they can implement this in their daily life.
Wow. You know, it does also remind me of what it said in the Bible about light and so forth, or the inner eye, or what you see, how it says, if the light that is in you is, you know, is light, you know, then the whole body is full of light. And if it's darkness, how great is that darkness? But there's just a real correlation happening. I think in the field of epigenetics, we're starting to see, you know, the relationship between the thought form and matter, and how, you know, I suppose how thought forms manifest, you know, physically and so on. So this is very, very, oh my God, this is great, something to hear. So, but how do you?
I'm very happy if you can keep in touch. We can somehow, we're all on Facebook and you know, all the social media. We'll be giving free information and you know, basic steps on how someone can start understanding how to live their multi-dimensional life.
Absolutely. Yeah,
in order to get out of victim to warrior. I mean, you know, this is a
right. What techniques you use to enable that? You know, because sometimes it's meditation or certain. That's why herbs, I think, have a healing influence, or drugs have a psychotropic influence, and so forth. So there is something there. Everything has some sort of, like the dimensions you're talking about, a conscious dimension, and then, you know, and I suppose that explains, what is it called, the effect. You know, where if you think a drug will work, it works, and if you think it won't, I forget the name offhand. But yeah, I'm very fascinated, and I will certainly try and learn more.
For instance, I'll just give one example. I'll give two, okay? Now, we all know that exactly what you were talking about. An herb has an energy, it has a medicinal property, and so forth. But I need people to understand the multi-dimension of that herb, of that supplement, of the action they're doing on a daily basis. Like, let me give you an example of basic salt. If you were to put salt under your pillow every single night, it would help to work like a lightning rod, where it would absorb all your overactive brainwaves.
Exactly. I somehow knew that instinctively. I could feel that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. And in ancient, in sorcery, and in, you know, mystics and mysticism, if somebody hexes you, if you will, or gives you negative energy, or wishes bad on you, or is projecting negative waves or energy, that would be absorbed from that also. So
wow.
Yes, so it actually will calm down the brain. Any overactive brain waves, anything that is outside of its normal mechanism, will be absorbed by the salt, and then you discard it outside of your home and outside of your as far away as possible. So something as simple as that. Like, you must understand that salt is good for the body in some ways. It's good for the mind and good for the spirit. For let's take pineal gland, which is the third eye. Pineal gland is a pineal gland can also be, you know, the ancient Egyptians knew that, you know, if you were to cut someone's head in half, you would know that the pineal gland looks exactly like the eye of Horus. Correct?
Right. That, yeah.
So now it can calcify over time. And when you have a calcification of the pineal gland, not only do you have disorders and certain symptoms or loss of energy, your third eye, if you will not also be serving you. So we can have, let's say, drops that are easy to take, which decalcifies the pineal gland, giving you not only a physical effect, but spiritual effect.
Right. Wow.
So it's having this knowledge that's, there are drops that take away the radiation from an organ so that you can prevent diseases or heal your emotions. Because, we're put on this earth. We're put on this earth to experience who we are not, so that we can finally understand, to go back to our true essence. So as long as you have the light, as long as that entity is dealing with you and not the chaotic non-you, then it has no chance.
Absolutely. Wow. That is very fascinating.
I'm happy you like that.
Thank you so much for enlightening us. I've learned so much. What I thought I knew I was quite informed, but not on the same level as yourself. Most of my studies are from, I had a brain injury about 9 years ago and recovered through positive thought, meditation, not listening to the neurologist. But so I have my own path, and I had my own reset, and they were talking about 2020 as being a reset. But since then, I've been studying the external influences on the planet, for instance. So how we are obviously a biochemical, electrically charged being or entity, and the impact that, for instance, solar flares and other cosmic radiation has on the planet and on the magnetosphere, and the disruption of that on the well-being of humans. We're obviously already done, schoolboy, school child tests where you place a sort of a Wi-Fi device next to a plant and see how it stunts with its growth. So we know that there is, an impact. Have any of your studies sort of gone in that direction, in terms of the impact of external sort of radiation from outside of the Earth's atmosphere?
Any form of radiation, it could either be from the sun. Stress is a form of radiation, believe it or not. Of course, planets have, in ancient Egyptians had astrology as ancient medicine. And fortunately, instead of it staying together as a one concept, as a multidimensional concept, as one understanding of math, physics, astronomy, and so forth, it separated and then got lost in translation somehow. So, of course, the moon is going to influence it. Of course, certain planets that have not, that don't correlate with the energy that you're trying to generate and reach your goals with, is going to affect that. There are different types of radiation, and definitely Hartmann patterns and geopathic patterns and planetary patterns. We just need to understand how to go with nature, how to be one with our beings, how to know, Carl Jung said that, when something is born under that influence, it carries always that energy of that influence. I'm an ancient Egyptian perfumer. When it doesn't matter when I start the perfume, it matters when I finish it. So it will take on the personality and the energy of that, of the day it was born, if you will, the same way that you'll always be that person and that personality that you were born as. So yes, look at if the moon is moved even just a bit, it could create waves of, it would disrupt the oceans. It would, cause tsunamis. It would, single thing is a bewildering, intricate, mechanical wonder of mystery, and it's just all beautiful. Yeah. It is.
I think we're entering a new epoch of knowledge that has been lost, and I bow to your vast knowledge on so many subjects, and I think we can all learn an awful lot from you. So thank you very much for sharing your valuable time.
Thank you so much. Really, it is an honor to be here amongst all these great minds and amazing people who are futurists and are on a mission to better the world. So thank you. The honor is mine.
It's mutual. I don't think there are any other hands up. Our next session isn't until 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which I think is where are we? No. Yeah, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will put a slide up with the correlation of times that those will be. Obviously, for the rest of the world, that's quite late in the day. So Australia will be coming online around about then. So that's good for them. There is, if I recall, there is a separate link for this evening's session. So we will open that so that people can join early if they want to, just to test their connections. So if there are no other questions, then thank you very much, Fredrik, and thank you everybody for participating today. I think it's got a little bit smoother as we've gone along with the technology. So by day 3, we shall be flying. It's like everything new. We learn very quickly.
Wow! Oh my gosh.
Okay. So with that, I shall close the main part of the day's conference. And again, I'm almost certain there's a separate link for this evening's, or for the later session in a few hours' time. So thank you everyone, and I wish you a pleasant break until the next session. Thank you. Thank you, Fredrik.
Thank you.